Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship of the Rink, brought to you, as always, by our incredible local friends in Waggle Golf, 9 Mile Brewing, and Barrel Theory Beer Company. Again, on hiatus today, Joe Smith, who's on an awesome vacation during Four Nations. He will be back next week, but in his stead, again, my co-host over on Judd's Buds, Smoked Z, battling through illness, here to give the people what they need. We holding in there, man?
We're holding there. We're in there, out there. We're holding. Back to back, flu game, flu episode. I love hockey rules. Great. Four Nations.
I love Lamp.
I love Lamp.
Gonna change up the order for things here a little bit because a couple of our hot takes are very Four Nations heavy, and I know we'll get to talking about it later anyways. So we're gonna open with our weekly segment brought to you by our incredible friends at Barrel Theory Beer Company. We are getting into Keyboard Warriors hot take segment. Barrel Theory Beer Company, again, folks, get out there, support them. I know there's no Wild games right now, but those of you who are out in St. Paul, go down East 7th, just a 15-minute walk from XL Energy Center, and March. Be ready for it. It's pretty much all home games throughout March, and they have the best beer offering at XL Energy Center. You can get their Crowler of the Day at section 105. Get there fast because more often than not, it's sold out like midway through the first period, sometimes before the game even starts. Otherwise, you can get their Raindrops IPA on tap, sections 112, 217, and C36. And of course, right now, they still have their Shooter McGavin in 4-packs. Grab them from the tap room, take them home. It is honestly one of my favorite IPAs. If I could only have one the rest of my life, I don't know which one I would pick, but that one would be in the discussion for what I would pick. Z, a couple hot takes here. We can go any direction you want with them, but first one for me, is hockey overtaking basketball?
Many are saying this. Again, we were talking about this recently, and by recently I mean like a couple hours ago. I cannot believe that USA-Canada game went the way, or at least the first like couple of minutes went
First
the way
9
that
seconds.
went. First 9 seconds went the way those first 9 seconds went at the exact same time as the NBA had the most confusing and ridiculous looking skills challenge of all time. I still, and again, I don't actually plan on finding out what the event was. But when I watched the video with no sound, and it was literally guys running around, taking the basketball off the rack and just like flicking it. I don't like, it wasn't towards a basket. There wasn't a target. It was just like throwing. It just looked like they were just like how fast can you throw a bunch of basketballs in the air? And meanwhile, what was that again? Like just under 6 million viewers of that game live. And it was like just an incredibly entertaining hockey game start to finish. And like, you see how many people are talking about it still. And I mean, it's just been a great tournament overall, but it was so funny that All-Star weekend was going on in that specific event at the same time as there was 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of USA Canada. So yeah, I'd say we're there. And actually, and tonight, or was it tonight or the other day? I don't even know if it was tonight or last night, but like, it's like LeBron James cannot play due to general soreness. He can't play in the All-Star game. And then like the camera goes to like Brady Tkachuk throwing absolute bombs, hitting everything that moves. And it's just like, this is unbelievable. What a league.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's also a guy that like we don't need to derail and talk about LeBron James, but the recent talk with him has been like, it's crazy that he comes out and basically tells everyone he's the best when Michael Jordan has never once said that about himself, which is pretty indicative of who actually is the best. But I digress. Yeah, it's crazy too. A lot of people wanted the Four Nations to be like a different time of year. And the biggest argument was like, we don't want injuries mid-season derailing people's cup runs, which I get. But there's a flip side, which is competing with football. And everyone's like, oh, why does that matter? Like, it matters. It absolutely matters. You don't get these numbers if it's competing with football in any capacity. And again, no football, no baseball, and going head to head with basketball in the worst light we've ever seen basketball. On top of the fact that, like, the reason that basketball has largely been more popular than hockey outside of accessibility and it being easier for people to play, it's cheaper. It's like, you don't have to get ice time, but the openness and availability of players, like, they're way more vocal, they're active on socials, whatever. And a lot of the guys you're seeing here, especially for Team USA, like, they're out there. Like, all of the Jack Hughes interviews are going viral right now of him just like shaking people off. Like, why are you asking me that? My favorite one is someone asking him, like, so have you have you taken Luke under your wing and like taught him about being a pro off the ice, not just on the ice? He's like, he just got in last night, so no. Like, I love that kind of personality though. Like, we always get mad when people don't say anything. When they do, we somehow get mad too. Like, I want these players to have personality. We're starting to see that, especially from the US kids. And I'm not saying that will legitimately overtake basketball, but I think it's going to be a lot more of an even discussion in the next 5 years than it has been in the past. Like, we have been second fiddle to them for a while. I think we're going to start to see that shift. And it's crazy that this tournament that everyone thought was like a gimmick is going to be the inflection point for it. I love it.
Yeah, and like a part of that too is like they just released the first like Amazon series too. So like you are like, the more access that we get to these players, the more personality we can see. Like, they are a bunch of funny bastards in the first place, but like as the younger players are just like every year the better players are younger and younger. And they're willing to show more personality. And if that stays like embraced by the NHL, and like you said, the accessibility part of it, and they're just hopefully can like continue to get better with like advertising. It's still crazy to me that they, for this event and like for like the Winter Classic and all the stadium series, they wait for like a week before. Like, the Winter Classic sometimes they're a little bit better. This year was brutal. I forgot that the Winter Classic was happening when it happened. But like, as long as they can continue to like get better with like marketing stuff, because it is interesting where it's like the game, they don't really have to worry about it being more entertaining, because it does get more and more entertaining every year. Especially like just the speed of the game, scoring's up. And I mean, like, we see how much people love like the fighting part of the game. Is like, that was a huge part of like the first 9 seconds of that USA Canada game. But yeah, no, as long as they continue to keep getting better with like the marketing stuff and the players are more willing to be accessible to the media, yeah, I definitely think like it's definitely a possibility that like they'll at least close that gap. And especially with like, honestly, basketball too, just like the game's changed a lot, where it does feel like it is more personality than the actual game. Because again, don't watch a ton of basketball, but I like still cannot believe that like this year the Boston Celtics are setting a record for like the most threes attempted. They're averaging like, they take over 50 a game. It's like people just like are like, this isn't that fun. Like, this is not that fun to watch. But yeah, I don't know. It's like just seeing the numbers from that USA Canada game, how entertaining this like silly concept of a tournament has been, but it's been very successful so far. Yeah, no, you could definitely see it. Possibility of closing that gap between the two sports.
I got 2 more Four Nations hot takes. This next one, we've seen it. We make fun of it, jabs at it every year, how Hockey Canada overreacts one World Juniors to the next. They way overthink their roster instead of just bringing the best players, bringing the right players. It's like, how can we galaxy brain this to the point that we shoot ourselves in the foot even worse than we did last year? I think it's already been unanimously decided that Tom Wilson will be on Team Canada for the 2026 Winter Olympics, because that is the only answer that Canada has to the Bash brothers that are Matthew and Brady Tkachuk.
That's a hot take. I mean, I don't know if they'll overthink this tournament specifically. And I mean, they're in the final, and like they have a very good chance of winning that game against the US.
They're in the top 2 out of 4. Awesome.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying all I'm saying is, especially if they win on Thursday, that there's not really anything to overthink. I would assume it's not like.
Okay, but what if that's without the Tkachuks in the lineup, which is very possible as it sits right now?
I mean, if Tom Wilson makes that Team Canada, that's crazy. I mean, I don't know. You could see him. He would be the mold of player where they're like, yeah, he could play a fourth line role. He's super physical, but he also does have some offensive skill set anyways. Like, I think he's up there.
Right, he's not a bad player.
Right. It'll be, I mean, we'll see what it looks like by the time the next Olympics rolls around. So all I'm saying is I don't think he should make the team. But I don't know if it's this specific, like the Four Nations tournament would be what they would be overreacting to, but I could see them galaxy braining their roster in general. It will be in like next year. It's going to be actually very interesting at the World Juniors to see if like they stop doing what they've do, because the last 2 years have been insane. But we'll see if that extends to the men's team.
And that's my point. Like they do this regularly, and there's no shortage of talent. And I don't think they're that worried about their fourth line, right? Like Tom Wilson is not a bad hockey player. Why wouldn't you bring him in for a fear factor? Even though like the fighting won't be a thing because, you know, IIHF sucks and doesn't want to have fun, but you still got to have an answer to those two running around like maniacs, killing people like Drew Doughty. Oh my God, Brady Tkachuk. That was an incredible hit. We loved it. Like you need a response when Charlie McAvoy decides he wants to decapitate Connor McDavid. Like, I don't think it's a crazy hot take. It's there's some spice to it, but it's not outside the realm of possibility, but fair. I'll accept it. The last one is, again, aggressive, but whoever wins on Thursday between USA and Canada, there's an asterisk because there is no Team Russia. And I think even if you have to go full on OAR, Olympic athletes of Russia, pull some kind of side thing, it'd be such a good money grab for the NHL to host something like in August, kind of like they did with that bizarre World Juniors that they had. That was probably the worst we've seen the U.S. ever do.
The worst tournament of all time.
It was not a fun tournament, but you could have a one-game matchup between whoever wins and the best assembly of Russian players you can get. People absolutely tune in. It'll be the only sport going on at that time. There's got to be some version of the champion of this versus the Russian athletes. Gary won't let it happen, so don't let that bog you down.
No,
like,
I know.
I'm aware that this will not, cannot, isn't going to happen, but it should. The fans need it and deserve it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really see a whole lot changing over the next few years either, just given how, things are going. I feel like the one way that they could figure out how to at least get some of the best Russians in the league in that tournament is some kind of like Team Europe thing, and like including the Russians, where it's like that might be a superstar team. It's like,
but I think that goes even more poorly. You think the other European nations want to work with Russia as Europe? I think they'd rather play against them.
Yeah, like, true. No, it's very true. That's what it's just like. I just trying to figure out a way to like basically get Kaprizov in this tournament. I
do think a Team Europe concept would be awesome though, because you look at like a couple of the studs for Germany. Like there's 3 that come to mind right away with Draisaitl, Stützle, and Seider. You've got guys that like play onesie twosie, like whether it's guys like Marco Rossi in Austria. You got Swiss players. Like I don't think that you have enough NHL players to make a Czech team or a Slovak team. You could come up with an insane roster if you lumped a lot of those together. Call it non-Scandinavia, call it mainland Europe. I don't know what you want to call it, but like that could be an interesting wrinkle, even though a lot of people hated that and Team North America, which I thought Team North America was like the coolest thing ever, especially because the jerseys rocked.
I think the people that like would like always talk trash about that whole concept or whatever are some of the biggest haters on the planet for like hockey. And I was like, bro, we had nothing else. Like there was no other options. They weren't going to the Olympics.
Right now, having Celebrini and Bedard down the middle, having Brock Faber like as a cornerstone on that blue line, like that just sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have understood just given like when you first looked at the roster, it was kind of like this is an interesting like Team Europe. I get why people were like, all right, come on, but like Team North America, whatever people were talking trash about, I was like, bro, that was unbelievable. That was one of the funnest assembly. Like they assembled one of the funnest hockey teams that we've ever seen.
Like it was ridiculous.
Like, David, like it was crazy, but you know. People just have to. We can't be happy.
No, can never be happy. All right, last one here that is not international, Four Nations, whatever related. I feel like you and I have talked about this off camera. I don't think we've ever gotten into it on Judd's Buds. I want, and it kind of goes off of what we talked about last week with like, crowdfunding for players, like the kid offering to give his piggy bank to Rantanen. I think it would be awesome. I don't think it'll happen, but it'd be awesome to have 2 jersey patches for players for sponsorships. One that the team gets paid for and you throw it on one spot. One that's reserved for individual players. So you could pay Connor McDavid $2 million to wear whatever your logo is on his jersey. And everyone is going to see that whenever there's a Connor McDavid highlight. Whenever a jersey for Connor McDavid is sold, that patch is on there. Heck, if you wanted to go the cheaper route and like maybe there's some like grape company that wants to go to Jakob Lauko and be like, hey, we'll give you $100K, throw this on your shoulder, call it good. And he's like, yes, please. Like, let's do it. But it's just like, it's one, cool because it shows individuality for all the players. If there's like a brand that you care about or something that resonates with you. 2, that's extra money that goes towards them that might help if they aren't getting the money they want to be in a market, but that sponsor is dedicated to them being there. Like think about Target or Quick Trip, like going all in, trying to get a guy to stay in Minnesota. Like that just sounds fun to me. I don't know. Like, overall concept, again, I don't expect it to happen, but what do you think of the overall concept?
I like it, dude. Like, I mean, I would, if the last drop gave me $50, I'd be like, yeah, right. Put it right over my heart, dude. It's who I am. Man. I basically live here.
Who is the player for the Bruins that would be most likely to throw the last drop on their jersey?
Well, it used to be Tuca because he would go. Right now, which one of them? I feel like Mark Kastelik would love the drop. I mean, he's just running around like a lunatic. Yeah, I'll go Kastelik. No, but either way, I mean, I like it. I would have met like I'm now laughing thinking about like the logistics behind it and how, because like I mean, first of all, you know, just the NHL in general would find a way to ruin that, but like how many different companies they're gonna have to like all right, what is this one? Like if there's like some like niche where they're like, hey, what is this?
And how I want to see the full write-up and details of the rules for acceptable sponsors. Like you know that there's a player that would be like, hey, Pornhub's willing to give me $3 million, and they're like, nope.
Like,
nope. like that would be very interesting. There's a drug cartel that's willing to cover someone. But, I don't know. That could get really, really interesting. But I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I could see some of the players absolutely getting themselves in trouble with this. Like, bro, come on. You knew that was never going to be okay.
You know what, though? That's part of it, too. It's like, let's let people expose themselves for being absolute idiots and get in trouble for it. But it's a fun thing to like give individuality to players. It's a talking point for us. Like every year we'd have one show dedicated to talking about like, oh shit, like what's the player patch going to be this year for each guy? Like,
hell yeah,
I'm
in.
It sounds fun. I've been in on it for a while. I just haven't gotten many people to bite with me. So, all right, you'll ride with me.
Who would have the most boring one? Probably McDavid. He'd just do something boring. Some giant company.
You know what,
give
dude?
him like a ton of money.
I hate to be mean, but like you and I, it was probably like a year and a half ago. Do you remember the nickname that we gave Matt Boldy?
No.
Matty Cheese Pizza. Like just the most vanilla, like run of the mill guy. I could see him having a really boring one.
Yeah, I'd probably do something like golf related, to be honest with you.
I mean, Faber would be Waggle for sure.
Yeah,
otherwise I would have said Faber, but like,
or Faber just have the state of Minnesota. Like it would just that would be like, yeah, just Minnesota. Like yeah, but like what he's like, no, just Minnesota.
Dude, I want to know who is the player that is most likely to pull the Ricky Bobby and have the me car. Switches from Wonder Bread to he's like, what's M-E? That me. That's you, Ricky. That's you. Who is the player that would throw their face on? Or even better, nope, I've got it now. Kirill Kaprizov doesn't want the money because, you know, Leopold has already said that he will throw whatever he needs to at him. He would for sure just have a big blown up smiling Zuki face. Zuccarello would be his sponsor.
I hate how likely that actually. It's actually like the most likely scenario.
It's so plausible. It's so plausible. I love
plausible. It. Yeah, yeah. He would literally have Zuccarello's face.
Oh,
do they get to choose where they put the patch?
I mean, no, it definitely wouldn't be a blanket. Put it wherever you want. But I could see there being like, okay, you can pick one of these 3 spots. Maybe. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Fair.
Actually, you know what? I think the move would be instead of the jersey, you put it on the breezers or something.
I was gonna say, but maybe breezers. Yeah.
Do you call them breezers?
No, you do. So I just say pants.
Okay. They're breezers, but I appreciate that you at least like pretend that you're on board with it. Well, there we go. That was a meaty keyboard warrior hot take segment. Again, thank you to our incredible friends, Barrel Theory Beer Company. Everyone go check them out. Tap Room, XL Energy Center, wherever your local liquor store is, make sure that you support our awesome friends, Barrel Theory. Z, anything else 4 Nations related? Like, I feel like the biggest thing here is like, we are worried about whether or not the Tkachuks are going to play on Thursday.
Now both of them now, yeah.
We did, by the way, for everyone listening to this on Wednesday, on Judd's Buds, which dropped Tuesday. Everyone can check that out either on the Soda Pod podcast feed or Judd's Buds. But yes, there were a lot of things we got into, a lot more in depth for 4 Nations. So go check that out if you want more 4 Nations talk, both on the Wild players participating and all the chaos that ensued with US versus Canada. But for this episode, we'll just talk more about Thursday. USA versus Canada, the rematch. Any other storylines for you besides Tkachuks potentially being out and Cale Makar being back in?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, realistically, it's just the injuries with USA now. Like, again, also McAvoy. Like, can they stay healthy? And like, again, it kind of makes me nervous about the future. Like the owners being like, everyone got hurt. Like literally, like that we've now had potentially 4 or 5 actual injuries, like in the 2 or 3 games for each team. Yeah. Like Shea Theodore, it was crazy. It was like the camera going to like Bruce Cassidy on the bench for Canada when Shea Theodore went down the tunnel, and Bruce was just like, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like just literally not moving, like staring off into the distance, like miserable. Apparently Jack Eichel just popped Leo Carlson's bucket with a huge hit.
I actually, it's so funny that as I said that, I saw the bucket fly and I didn't know whose it was.
It's Leo Carlson, apparently.
Yeah, anyone listening right now, we are in the middle of the third period of USA versus Sweden. That's where that's coming from. Oh, yep, that was Eichel. Rocked it right off Carlson, but also Carlson did not look even remotely phased. I think he just forgot to buckle it. I don't know.
He also got popped by Brady Tkachuk like second shift of this in the first period of this game too. Like Leo Carlson's taking some big hits. I am surprised too though, like because I mean like USA, they've already got a spot in the final. Like they're still running around throwing big hits. Like
Yeah.
I am surprised like how hard they're still going. I mean, I guess not really, because we're not really. They're all jacked up about this tournament, I guess. So I'm not really that surprised. At the same time, it's just like Tkachuk. I mean, Brady Tkachuk in that first period was running around like an actual maniac.
But for me, you're almost in more danger if you do take your foot off the gas. And I also think like if you're running around and doing the hitting, you're a lot safer than being the target, right? Like it would be really hard to play in a game like this and just like not care. You can't mail it in. Like you can't like feed Ottinger to the wolves. Like you got some pride. I don't know. I see both sides of it. It's just, I don't know how you get the players to not try. Like that's a weird concept.
Oh yeah. No, I was just meaning more like the physicality part of it.
Right.
Because I mean like,
I mean, it's the Swedes, dude. Like,
yeah.
Swedes aren't physical, right?
Oops.
Oh no. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think like the game on Saturday, like not enough people are talking about how Makar didn't play and last minute got replaced by a guy that hasn't even skated with the team. But then on the flip side, we're going to have the Tkachuks potentially out on Thursday. And if that happens, like there's an asterisk there. I don't really even care who wins this tournament. I think the big win, like we talked about in the hot take segment, is hockey being more firmly on the map after that Saturday night of absolute chaos. And like, yeah, USA won 3-1. Like that was a very even game. It was a very exciting game. And I think the fans got every ounce of what they could have hoped for. So
100%. Yeah. I mean, the Hellebuck was a major reason that they won that game.
Yeah. How happy is Gary Bettman that Canada won today and it is Canada USA on
He
Thursday?
would have been so upset.
Very. You know Gary, he gets really mad.
Fired up.
Would he be more mad about Finland winning or about just the pure existence of the former owner of the Arizona Coyotes?
Oh my God. I'm not kidding. I somehow that one of those clips came across my feed the other day. Good. It is one of the most unbelievable, if not the most unbelievable press conferences I've ever seen.
Honestly, though, like it's weird to say, but that press conference gave me immense respect for Gary Bettman. Like the level to which he was able to reel it in and just like not say anything as Morello would like chime in.
While saying stuff.
Dude, I would have lost my mind on him. Like I would have had no self-restraint. And he played it off so cool and like got through the whole thing. And afterwards he goes up to him. He's like, you just like ended any chance of you ever having anything to do with the NHL at any point in the future, ever, ever, ever. It was insane. Doesn't know what we're talking about? Like, please go just look up like press conference, Gary Bettman, Alex Morello. It was so much better than I could possibly describe it or do it justice here.
Dude, the line about he's like, well, I think he and I are the same page. Like he's hoping that I'm back. He's looking forward to work each other. And the face better just goes, well, like the face is so funny. He does the role models.
It's so good. It's the best. Okay. Well, everyone tune in as well. I know producer of the show, Isha, will be doing a live watch along for the game on Thursday. You can tune in YouTube. A lot of people will just turn on the game, watch it however they usually do. Tune into the YouTube for the conversation, banter. A lot of people in the live chat that make things very interesting. Shout out Sean Cosgrove in particular. But everyone check that out. Get excited. But for today, get excited about an interview we have coming up here in just a minute with one Mikey Milne. For anyone that missed it, 9 Mile Brewing just celebrated their 3-year anniversary. If you were one of the people that missed out on the fun, you can still grab not one, but 2 different barrel-aged beers on tap. First up, 2 for his nibs, a vanilla honeybush infused red ale slumbered in wheated whiskey barrels from J. Carver Distillery. Unique, complex, and objectively very tasty. Stop in soon before this one's gone. And for the birthday celebration, 9 Mile released an Imperial Rye Porter, which spent 12 months resting on freshly dumped rye barrels from J. Carver. I personally recommend both if you like darker, stronger beers. If not, 9 Mile offers a ton of other styles. You will absolutely be able to find something you love. 9 Mile is also pleased to announce 2 new weekly activities. With the exception of the last Monday of the month, Monday night at 7 p.m. is reserved for the Initials game hosted by Trivia Mafia. And each Thursday at 6 p.m., 9 Mile is partnering with the Bloomington Lions Club and other local charities to host Cash Bingo. Stop on into their Bloomington tap room for a pint or 2, or more if you wish, and a chance to win cash prizes. See, I know we've talked about him plenty on Judd's Buds, but real quick before we throw it over to the interview, just want your input, kind of walk through for the people that are less familiar with his game, people that maybe don't tune in to Iowa a ton, don't watch any of the CHL. What's Mikey Milne bring, and where can you see him potentially working his way into the Wild lineup in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think Mikey Milne is just like, he's such a versatile player where, like, you know, in the WHL, his big calling card was how hard he played, but like he did have that legit offensive upside. I mean, he hit 100 points in WHL, playing on a really good team in Winnipeg. But he does give you a little bit of everything, and he's a nonstop motor, energy guy. So I think, you know, we're looking at another version of like a Connor Dewar almost, but a guy that can play up and down your lineup. Probably caps out potential wise, like third line maybe, but like just a really good all around player, really fun to watch, great personality. And I mean, the timing of this one's good because he actually tonight in their game, he did score first goal in a few games here, but gives you some offense, really good 2-way game, a lot of jam, high energy, very fun player to watch.
Well, with that, we'll kick it over. Mikey Milne. This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order. Joining the show today is one of us by way of the Minnesota Wild using their 89th overall pick in the 2022 NHL draft to select Mikey Milne. Mikey, appreciate you taking the time here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Question we open with every interview. Minnesota Wild logo. Pretty weird. Some of your teammates have given us some very strange answers here, but first time you saw it, like, what did you think it was?
Honestly, I had no idea. I knew obviously like the Wild. I thought maybe just like the trees and the forest, but then I think it was about a year after where I realized that there's like a little bear inside of the logo. And I just saw that like on Instagram or something, and it was kind of funny because I'd never seen that before. But then once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, but yeah, super cool logo. But first initial thoughts was just something to do with the Wild.
And everyone seems to pick up either they only see the wilderness or they only see the bear. And then the fun one, old teammate of yours, Adam Beckman, he said UFO.
Oh, that sounds like something he would see.
Like, obviously, this is Fellowship of the Rink is the name of the podcast, so we're Lord of the Rings fans. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan, or if not, what's your like nerd itch, or what's your kind of nerddom that you kind of follow along with?
Honestly, I'm not huge into like shows or movies or anything like that. There's a lot of shows, popular shows that I've never seen. I actually get a pretty hard time for it as well. A few guys down here, Sammy Walker, Caden Bank here, they're always naming movies and naming quotes from shows and movies, and I just have no idea what they're talking about. I'm a big sports guy, and I follow along with that. So honestly, like, there's not a lot of shows or movies that I could quote or anything like that. But yeah, I'm not too much of a nerd when it comes to movies.
So there's no like books you read, or no like things you collect or anything like that. It's kind of
I mean, as far as like that type of stuff, instead of watching shows or movies, I'm big into drawing. I got like a notepad here at home with like colors and crayons and stuff that I'd like to do. So that's kind of my way of kind of getting away from hockey and getting away from, everyday life, is just coming home. And yeah, I love to draw. That's something that I always loved doing when I grew up. And yeah, it's carried on to nowadays.
Is that something that like, do you just like sit down at home and just start randomly drawing stuff, or is there like a theme to the types of things you're drawing?
Yeah, there's sometimes that I go online and I'll look up something and try to draw it, but then there's times too that I like to just kind of free sketch and do my thing. I mentioned Walks earlier, but he wanted a drawing earlier of a farmhouse with like a horse and kind of like a picture like that. So not too long ago, I drew him a photo of that. So that was kind of cool, kind of getting requests as well. So
Nice.
yeah, it's fun, and it kind of gets me away from my phone and stuff. So I enjoy doing that.
We're gonna have to put in a request or something for you to give us some like cool logo for the show or something like that. Stay tuned. We'll give you some kind of assignment.
For sure, I'd be up for that.
So no portraits of teammates at all? No portraits like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, not yet.
Nice.
Well, obviously, like a lot of guys, you were a big hockey, fan from an early age. But I heard a story where you were 2 years old and your dad would like you like crawl up onto the nightstand to watch the Canucks games and like kind of follow the puck. Like obviously you were too, or remember that, but
Yeah,
it seemed like legit with kind of how your hockey love started.
for sure. Yeah, from a young age, I always loved hockey, and my parents kind of got me into it early. I had my own set of gear when I was very little, so I would throw on my gear and then grab my mini stick and just sit in front of the TV and kind of, probably didn't know what I was looking at, but yeah, from what I'm told, I really enjoyed it when I was young. And then my dad took me to the ice rink one day, and then I'd never wanted to go back. So we just kept going every single day, and yeah, now I'm here, and that's definitely how it started.
So you grab the mini stick. Who's the player, or maybe there's a couple players that you're like, this is who I'm pretending to be right now?
Well, when I was little, obviously, like, didn't really know many guys. But as I started to grow up and kind of know more players and stuff, Sidney Crosby was the guy for me. He was kind of my idol, and just like seeing commercials about him growing up, shooting into like the laundry and things like that. And then obviously he scored the golden goal in 2010 when I was like 8 years old. So that was my idol growing up, and just the way that he carried himself. My mom and my dad also really, really like him. And the Pittsburgh Penguins were winning cups back then. And yeah, he was kind of my idol growing up.
So no, like Canucks players, were like, I know that was a team that was probably the closest for you, but like no.
Yeah. Canucks, Obviously the Sedins, loved watching them play when I was younger. And then just kind of the classics, Trevor Linden, Marcus Naslund. I do remember when Trevor Linden retired, I remember crying on my couch because I didn't really know what it meant. And my dad had to explain to me that, yeah, like he's done. He won't be playing for the Canucks anymore. And obviously watching every game and stuff growing up, that was kind of sad to hear that you're never gonna see him play again. But yeah, Trevor Linden was one guy from Vancouver.
What's your earliest hockey memory? Like you mentioned, like golden goal when you were 8. You mentioned like Linden's press conference when he was retiring. Like, what's like the earliest hockey memory that you have, not just your parents have, I guess?
Yeah, I guess earliest memory that stands out to me was also in 2010. I was playing spring hockey. I think it was one of my first years, and I played for the Vancouver Selects. And we went to Winnipeg for a spring hockey tournament. And I just remember how fun that was going on the road, and just the lead up to that. It was kind of the first time I had gone away from home for hockey, and we ended up winning the tournament. I remember the final game. We were all pretty sick and banged up, and we grinded through. And I remember we won 6-3, and I had 3 goals, 3 assists, and we won the championship. And that was kind of the first memory where I was like, wow, that's awesome. And just like winning and celebrating and playing We Are the Champions in the dressing room, you kind of felt on top of the world. And that one stands out for me.
You mentioned gear. I'm sure it was the Max Domi gear, right, or something like that. You had back then, or
yeah, I might have grown out of that by then, but I don't even know what gear I would have been wearing at that time. I know I always used a Warrior hockey stick growing up, so I know that. But as far as the equipment, I honestly had no idea what I was wearing.
are the skates still small on the smaller side, or is that something you were growing up? You had to find like smaller skates for you.
Yeah, I think it's better now. But yeah, when I was little, I was always the smallest guy growing up, so it was always hard trying to find gear and finding things that fit. But I think I'm to the point now where it's not smaller than the regular guys, so I don't have a problem with that anymore.
Well, like I think any player I've covered, from the college, NHL, they mentioned like it takes a kind of village to raise a hockey player. It takes a really committed set of parents to get you from A to B. And obviously, growing up where you grew up, to get to Vancouver or whatever, your parents had to do a lot of driving, I'd imagine, or juggling. Just tell us a little bit about your parents. Like, what did they do for work, and like how did they kind of get you from A to B when you had to be there?
Yeah, obviously, like huge credit to them. I couldn't be here today without them, and I mean that because my mom worked at a restaurant. She worked nights at Ocean Park Pizza and Steakhouse, just a little family restaurant down in Abbotsford. And then my dad worked at the city of Vancouver, but he worked mornings, so he would wake up at 4 in the morning and drive out to Vancouver, which is an hour away, and then he got off at 3. So he would have to drive back at 3, get home around 4:30, and my mom started at 5. So there would be a lot of times where I had practices and games out in Vancouver or in that area. So my mom after school would have lunch ready for me after school, and then I would throw my suit on or whatever, and my mom would meet my dad halfway. I would switch cars, and then my mom would drive home and my dad would drive back out to wherever it may be for the game. And then yeah, we wouldn't get home till around 12 o'clock sometimes, and the next day my dad would have to repeat that. So he's waking up at 4 and not getting home till 12, and then doing it all over again the next day. So a lot of credit to them. When you're going through it, you never really realize the sacrifice they're putting in, but reflecting on it now and being where I am today, it's I kind of feel like I owe it to them to do my best and work hard every single day, because you can't take it for granted, and they did everything they could to get me here. So I'm really grateful for them.
Well, and it seems like, every guy who loves playing hockey is a passion for them, that it eventually gets to the point where you think, hey, I can play pro or I can go to the NHL. And for you, was it kind of after the COVID year, you kind of took off or had a breakout season? Like, I wasn't sure what changed or what was the big reason for you kind of taking a big step. And I think it was like 38 goals that year, just like really put yourself on the radar. A lot of people.
For sure. Yeah. Always a smaller guy growing up. So I just tried to work as hard as I could and see where hockey kind of took me. WHL draft, I think it was a couple weeks before. My mom didn't even know what the WHL was or that there even was a draft. So I know there's a lot of young kids that are like, I want to get drafted in the WHL, and for me, it was kind of something that kind of came up late for me, and I got picked in the 8th round, and ended up making it at 16, which was a surprise, but I worked hard and I earned that opportunity. And played my 16, 17-year-old year, 18-year-old year. I had surgery and then obviously COVID as well. But kind of reflecting, I knew that my 19-year-old year was going to be a big one. And if I wanted to even have a shot of, going to the NHL or getting drafted or anything, I knew I had to have a big year. And we had a lot of good players and great coaching staff, and kind of put me in a situation where I could excel. But yeah, I had a really good start, and I kind of feel like I just kind of ran with it from there. Like I said, had a good start. I think we won our first 11 games, so it always helps when you're on a winning team. And got my confidence and just kind of ran from there.
And so the WHL draft snuck up on you. Did you expect to go where you went in the NHL draft? Like, what was the whole experience and your memories from draft day?
Yeah. I didn't really have too much of my idea. Obviously got passed over in my first year of eligibility, but I didn't really let it get me down. I think I only played 12 games in my draft year. But yeah, going into my second year of eligibility, obviously was an overager. So I didn't really know, where those guys kind of fall, or if you get unpicked and then maybe get invited to a camp. But when I saw myself, get picked in the 3rd round, it was nothing but excitement. It was a commercial, and then it tuned back onto the television, and I saw my name on the bottom right, and that's a moment I'll never forget. It was kind of like, wow, like, in a way you made it that far, and it was super cool. But yeah, I didn't really have any expectations, but when I saw it was Minnesota, it's like, wow, this is surreal.
Yeah. And a teammate of yours, not only now in Iowa, but I know you spent quite a bit of time together with Winnipeg Ice, Carson Lambos. He came on with us about a year ago now, actually, almost, Joe. And we did a whole round of superlatives on the team. This is before the Hunt trade, obviously, but Damon Hunt was kind of unanimously picked as the best dressed across the team. But he went out of his way to say there needs to be an honorable mention here. Mikey Milne is right there behind him. With Damon Hunt gone, like, are you Mr. Style now, or is there anyone giving you a run for your money in Iowa?
Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I like to kind of be bold, and I don't really care what people think, when it comes to what I wear or anything like that. There's definitely a few pieces that I have that are a little bit controversial, but I think if you go with it and have confidence in what you're wearing, no one can tell you otherwise. But we have a lot of good dressed guys. We had country night the other night. Reese Johnson, Ben Jones, those guys know how to put a fit together. So, but yeah, when it comes to going to the rink, it's usually just sweats and a winter jacket. But I definitely like to use my style once in a while.
What's the controversial one? Like, what are the ones that were like kind of edgy, I guess, in your mind?
Yeah. There'll be times where I wear sweatsuits sometimes where it's just head to toe, like same color. I got a top hat as well that I wear to the rink sometimes for game days. I do have one coat it's a white winter jacket. I kind of look just like a puffball type of thing, but it's cozy and it's comfortable, and sometimes get a hard time for it, but can't complain if you're warm.
And so we then had to, of course, turn the tables and ask Lambos, who's the worst dressed? Like, who looks homeless in the group? And he immediately raised his hand. He's like, that's me. Do you think that's fair? Or is he just being too hard on himself?
I think he's being a little bit too hard on himself. I think Lambo's he's got a few more pieces now. He went to a thrift shop the other day, and he picked up some new items. He's got a Chicago Bulls jacket that he wears now. He's got a White Sox pullover polo, but just kind of cool pieces like that. But I think he's putting it together for sure.
Okay.
And he's been called up a few times, so he probably needs to get a little, like a suit or two, right? Just in case that.
Yeah, that was the tough one. He had a suit last year that he would wear on the road, that he always got a hard time. So yeah, I think he got a new one the other day. But yeah, the one suit that he had last year, he threw it out, and I'm grateful for that.
Any Lambeau stories, like whether it's from your time in junior, time in Iowa, anything?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Trying to think. It's kind of hard getting put on the spot.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what, putting you on the spot a little bit. Next time you jump on with us, you're going to have one locked and loaded. You're going to have the drawing that you created for us. We'll give you a pass on this one. It's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, weren't you part of the crew that was like the mattress falling off the truck thing, and then like you had to like be the helper in that point?
Yeah, that was tough. I was just driving my truck and had the mattress in the back, and we were driving about 5 minutes, so I didn't think much of it. And then we had a few guys following us behind, and then all of a sudden we just see a boatload of cars lined up on the bridge, and I look over and my mattress is just right in the middle of the road. So that was funny. I was with Banks at the time. I was coming off a shoulder injury. Banks was coming off an Achilles, so we weren't much help trying to get that mattress in the back of the truck. So luckily we had Masters and Lambos right behind us, able to help us with the mattress and put it back in. So, but yeah, that was pretty funny.
I've been in Des Moines a few times now, and obviously you had spent some time there. Like, what's your favorite restaurant? What's your go-to place? Like,
yeah, we have there's a place called Luca. It's right in the East Village, but great pasta and sandwich spot that the guys love to go to. A lot of the guys go there for pregame meal and stuff like that, and we kind of know the owner now as well, and they've came to a few games, and we actually went there for Christmas dinner not too long ago. I think it was maybe last year. They had us over on the 24th for dinner, so that was pretty cool.
Dang.
Obviously, goalies seem like they're a little weird, just overall, just their personalities and stuff like that. Like, how would you describe Wallstedt? And kind of like people ask you, "Hey, what's Wally like?" And you're like, "What do you tell them?"
Yeah, he's very outgoing. He's a funny guy. But yeah, he's always got a smile on his face. He's always making jokes and stuff like that. But yeah, he's just kind of always got a good attitude. He's always positive, and he's a competitor. That's what you love to see out of him. He's on the ice, he's a competitor. Off the ice, he's a competitor. And as much as he's laughing and making jokes and stuff, he takes it serious. And it's so great to have a guy like that in the room that's just carefree, and you can kind of talk to him about anything.
Nice. And I mean, ups and downs with the season, like obviously, especially everyone knows with the Wild, the MO is injuries happen up top, guys get called up, and you guys have to do everything you can to scramble. But there's been some really good stretches here for you guys. Like, what's your assessment of the season so far? How do you feel about the team?
Yeah, definitely been ups and downs. We're not where we want to be as a team right now. We're losing games, but we're not losing them by too much. We're in 1-goal games. It feels like every night we have a chance to win, and we just haven't been able to pull through and find a way to win those close games. And if we want to make playoffs, we got to learn how to do that. But I think we know that we're doing the right things and we're on the right path. I think it just comes down to will and putting a full 60 together, and it feels like we're having 5 or 10 minute spills where we let in a couple goals and then we're in a hole. And if we can figure that out, I think with the guys that we have, obviously injuries and stuff, but right now it feels like we got our full lineup, and we haven't had that a lot this year. So we got a great leadership group, and we're put in a position to do well. So I think it's going to come together. But yeah, it's going to take work and just commitment and following the game plan every single night.
I know anybody's NHL debut feels like a blur afterwards, but I'm sure you try to soak in certain moments. Like what will be the most vivid memories for you from your first game and that whole day, I guess, lead up to it?
Yeah. Obviously the rookie lap is something that you see growing up all the time. And then to finally, be able to do that was pretty cool. Having my parents in the building as well was special. But I think that whole day is kind of just for your family, for everyone that's kind of got you to where you are today. I just kind of remember reflecting on the way to the rink that day, just driving into the rink was pretty cool. I had a lot of friends watching on TV and stuff like that. So just knowing that I kind of made the NHL was insane, and having that, thought going into the rink was pretty cool. Just reflecting on everyone that got me to that point in my life.
Were you the most nervous? Were you nervous on the way there? Are you nervous for like the anthem, or like just pregame you're getting like dress everybody else and look around, or like what was your most kind of nervous moment?
Yeah, I would say honestly was pretty nervous for the rookie lap. Didn't want to fall. Never really skated around the ice with no helmet on before. So, and I've never played in front of a crowd like that. So, a little bit nervous for that, but honestly, just trying to soak everything in and enjoy it as much as I can, because you can only play in your first game once. So, yeah, once the game started, it was, just another game for me. I just tried to do my best and do what I do well. But yeah, it was super cool. Obviously nerves, but just a ton of excitement as well.
I know you're not the GM for the Wild or the Iowa Wild, but if you had to pick of your teammates, who's the next person to make their NHL debut?
There's obviously a few guys come to mind. Carson Lambos obviously got called up recently. Didn't get into a game, but he's trending in the right direction, and his game's, improved a lot since last year. Another guy, Caden Bankier, a little slow start as far as, goals come for his standard, but he's been playing awesome. Recently he's been a beast. Obviously big centerman, skates well, makes plays, and he's a great guy as well. And I could definitely see him turning the page and making his debut soon, because he's playing really good hockey recently.
Nice. And we've had, I'm trying to think, Joe, keep me honest, because I might be missing a handful, but I know Lambos and Bankier were both awesome interviews for us. Who do we need to grab as our next interview from that Iowa group? We had Wallstedt. Who am I missing, Joe? We had Haight. Oh, we don't.
Yeah, we had Hunter. Yeah, we had Juracek, obviously, who was when he was at the NHL.
Yeah.
So we had Juracek, Wallstedt, Lambos, Bankier. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else was like Ogren when he was there. So I'm trying to think of guys that would be on the team now that are just like good personalities. And
next guy, I mean, honestly, I think you could do Jack Pert, first year in Iowa. So I feel like he'd have kind of good story. Obviously first year with him, and we've become pretty good friends, but I think a guy like that, he played college obviously in his hometown as well, and now he's kind of going through it for the first time. And I remember me when I was going through it for the first time, everything was so big and crazy. So I feel like that would be a good guy to kind of get to know a little bit better. Nice.
I'm gonna put you on the spot again. What's the first question I should ask him?
Who's better at golf, me or him?
Oh, I like that. All right. Well, what's your answer? What's your answer to that question?
Me for sure. But
okay. So are we pretty confident in the golf game, or is it more that you just think his is bad?
I think we've played a few times, and I've taken him down a couple times now, but I'd say we have pretty similar game style. But I've just got the better of the hand the last couple times. But I'd like to hear what he thinks. We haven't played in the best conditions, so you put us on a real course with good conditions, you never know.
I like that. So, where do you sit in the hierarchy of Iowa Wild players when it comes to golf?
I would say, well, honestly, with a lot of new guys this year, I haven't even seen their games. We kind of did a lot of new guys coming in this year. But as far as the younger guys on the team, I would say I'm right in the top of the group. Wally's pretty good golfer. Rorschach. Trying to think who else. Lambos, me and him always kind of go at it. We have great matches. We had a great match this summer actually. That went to the final wire, final playoff hole. So that's a guy that I love to play with. But we got a lot of good golfers. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, excited for that.
Final question brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Mikey, you and 3 other people get to go out on a golf course for a day. Can be an athlete, celebrity, dead or alive, made up. I don't care. Tell me the 3 people you want out on the course with you.
It's a great question. All right. Well, I think I'm going with Tiger Woods. Just someone that knows the course and someone who you kind of watch and you're just amazed by. That'd be one. Luke Combs. I don't know what his game's like, but favorite artist, favorite singer, and he's a great guy as well. And I feel like he would be fun to chat it with. And then my third one's Adam Sandler. I love his movies. I love his shows. I love everything about him. He seems like the funniest guy ever. And I feel like that'd be pretty fun. You got Luke Combs, who's, he can kind of sing and he's drinking beers, and Adam Sandler's cracking jokes. And then Tiger Woods is kind of showing me how to play. So I think that would be my 3 guys.
Nice. That's good balance. And I mean, obviously with the new Happy Gilmore coming out soon.
Yeah.
Got to tune that.
For sure.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's always fun I always love to hear about the guys' journeys and paths to get here. And then obviously yours with your parents and at an early age playing is such a cool thing. And looking forward to seeing you back with the Wild at some point here for another call up. But thanks again for taking the time, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds good. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. That was fun. Thank you.
All right. Let's talk Minnesota Gophers. An unfortunate weekend. Great hockey, and Michigan is definitely looking better. I mean, it certainly impacts the game to have a guy like Michael Hage back. And yeah, I'm sure you can go off on what a player he is. But Gophers come out with 2 losses, extra time, whole thing. Not great. We had 2 goals called back, 1 for each team over the course of it, and there were big momentum shifts in each game. But let's lead there for people that are less familiar, because we talked about him a ton leading into the draft. How big is it for Michigan to have Michael Hage?
That goal that he scored this weekend was filthy. I mean, he is such a fun player to watch. Like, had so much stuff going on coming into his draft year, like off the ice. And then he gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, like right around probably December of his draft year, he just took off with Chicago. Super high skill. Another guy that moves really well. Super deceptive. Really good two-way game. Legit high upside, top 6 potential center. But the speed that he can play with, and just like his ability to problem solve in the moment when like whatever he wants to do, that option becomes unavailable. His ability to think on the fly. He's another one of those guys, like his brain moves just as fast as his feet. Like, he is so fun to watch. So he is like, I mean, the first few games at Michigan, he just torched. And then he got hurt, obviously. So I'm sure they're very happy to have him back. But that goal that he scored this weekend was so filthy. Poor Soulier, dude. I'm just like, I mean, that is just unbelievable. But he's such an incredible player. Really good college hockey player too. Like, I'm sure he'll be there for another year, and we'll see what happens after that. But like, what he can do with the puck, and again, he gives you that two-way ability, but he is just all around such a solid player with some legit upside, and we saw that. That was it Friday or Saturday? Friday, right? That goal.
Honestly, it all blends together for me. Yeah, being honest, especially since like both games pretty much ended in similar fashion. So like, I don't have much delineation between them, huh?
I think it was Saturday. Yeah. Second game.
So 2 questions off that then. First one, Soulier. You obviously aren't as emotionally tied as me, so I want the objective opinion. Can he get the job done? Is this a guy that you think could get to the Frozen Four, win a national championship if he's the guy that they decide is their horse?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, and part of that is just because how good the team is in front of him. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, probably could have had the same kind of conversation about Denver last year. Like where before the tournament, like he would have been solid the whole year, but like, he was never looked at as the guy that produced some of the saves he was making in that Frozen Four, specifically those last 2 games in Minnesota. But so yeah, I still think so. And again, a big part of it is just how good that team is in front of them. Again, this was a disappointing weekend overall as far as like the outcomes went. But like you said, also 2 awesome hockey games. And I mean, Michigan's definitely getting better. And like you said, Michael Page being back is a big boost for them. But yeah, no, I think Soulier is good enough to potentially be there if he's the guy that they go to backstop a team making a run to the final or the championship.
Okay. What do you make of Michigan? Because they're a team that every year, no matter how the season goes, if they make it into the tournament, like there's a coin flip chance that they're going to make the Frozen Four. Like, is this a team that, you being a BC, BU guy, right? If Michigan is somehow the matchup for either of them first round, does that terrify you, or are you not as worried because there's holes in their game?
I still think there's enough holes in their game where, like, yeah, ideally you don't play them in your like first round, but at the same time, like, I don't know, and they've been so inconsistent too. Like I've seen a couple games of theirs where it was just like they did not look like a Division I hockey team, and then you have like this weekend. I thought they were really good both games, which is like kind of its own. It's like scary in its own right, where it's like, hey, which Michigan are we gonna get here in this game? And like in the Frozen Four, it's just it's the way it goes. So, I mean, again, I still think they're like a level below some of the other contenders, but at the same time, like we've seen games where they can really turn it on. They've got players again like Hage that they can obviously in one game with everything on the line, like they could definitely be a team that would potentially be a good upset team.
Okay. And then we had, of course, Matthew Wood scores a goal, and my immediate reaction is this is the only Canadian we want scoring on Saturday. Please and thank you. Only one other one scored, so that's good. But he's looked solid. There's been some shifts in the lines. Like as far as the Gophers go, and I know you're not like locked in on every game, but you watch them enough. Are there players that you see as being like the X factor on whether or not the Gophers can go on a run in the postseason? Like whether it's like, it could be as simple as like, hey, if Jimmy Snuggerud, they're good. Or is it like a depth guy that you're like, hey, if this guy plays to the level we think he can, this is the difference maker?
I feel like I see so many like individual moments where like Never steps up and just scores a big goal. I feel like he could be a potential X factor. I don't know if you like what category you'd put him in as far as like players to throw out, but like beyond like the Snuggerud, Matthew Wood, Oliver Moores of the world, like I do feel like Mason Nevers constantly has a lot of big moments and coming up big and important opportunities. So like I could see Mason Nevers being a guy that like scores a couple of big time goals on your way to the way to the Frozen Four. And like I don't know if honestly if Oliver Moore can just unlock some the net level that we know is in there that we just want to see it on a more consistent basis. That was a sick tip, by the way. This weekend too. But if he can step up and just like dominate some games, like that's another guy that like that is a whole other level of player there.
And I would even like push back a little bit. Like I feel like he's dominated a ton of games. The scoring touch hasn't been there for a lot of the season. Like he's been with it.
More so,
like you said, we know he can do it. It's just like it comes and goes, and you can tell he gets a little frustrated and grips the stick a bit tighter. Like he can be a huge difference maker. But I have been really happy. Like he has dominated play largely in like most aspects, but he does need to get the scoring touch back for sure. And that tip was great. Hopefully that like fuels even more from him. But yeah, I think that's an interesting one. There's always dad strength Hughlin. Like what's he gonna do now that he's a dad? I guess it is crazy.
That like blows my mind.
I was more than a decade older than him when I had my first kid. That's nuts. Well, and I'm a mess.
Playing college hockey with a kid is nuts.
How crazy the kid came early and happened to be born on the
6
weekend.
years early.
No. Okay. Damn it. Kid came a couple weeks early. It was supposed to be sometime in March, and the kid was born on a weekend that happened to be their bye weekend.
Oh,
how do you like
that kid's got touch. That kid gets it.
That kid's got a future in hockey. He gets it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh man. All right, but it'll be interesting to see where things go this weekend, hosting Ohio State, who maybe I'm like out to lunch on this one, but coming into the season, I didn't expect much from them, and they came in and they've been like a very interesting team, like ups and downs, sure, but like not a team I take lightly at all at this point. I think that pretty much rounds us out though for the week. Again, anyone that like wants more Four Nations and Wild talk, check out Judd's Buds. We talk about the three Swedes, how they tore it up, Boldy and Faber on Team USA, even guys that we think Bill Guerin might target in trades based on how they played for Team USA. A hypothetical Team Russia roster that you can all probably pick apart and tell me how dumb I am for compiling it. We talk about some prospects, Aaron Pionk, Ryder Ritchie, Zeev Boyum, Jesper Wallstedt. But otherwise, we'll catch you next week. Joe will be back. Next week's interview, we got a couple in the works. We might either have both goalies for the Gophers sitting down with us, both Soulier and Airy, which is going to be a fun one. Or I know there's potential that we'll have Russo jumping on for a recap of Four Nations and talking about the outlook moving forward for the Wild. So you'll have to tune in and see which one it is next Wednesday, but appreciate all of you listening. If you don't already, please subscribe, 5-star review, whatever you can do. We really appreciate it. If you like the video stuff, check us out on YouTube where you can see all shows covered by the Soda Pod, that being MNCAA with all the college hockey teams here in Minnesota, Judd's Buds, prospects, and NHL draft largely. Wildly Informed with Isha and Brett Marshall talking more analytics associated with the Wild. And then, of course, here, what you're listening to, Fellowship of the Rink. We'll catch you guys next week.